Welcome to this GiftWorks video. My name is Jonathan Lehman, and this is the second video in a 7-part video series on GiftWorks events. GiftWorks events is an optional add-in that can be purchased, and it works with any of the versions of the GiftWorks fundraising software from GiftWorks 2008 and later. In the first video in this video series, I gave a quick, fast-paced overview of the entire process to set up an event. Each of the subsequent videos in this video series will cover one or more particular areas within GiftWorks events and give more detail about those areas. In this particular video, I'm going to be covering designing the activities for your event. We'll go over some of the things you might want to consider, and also we'll talk about how sponsorship activities are different than other activities. So let's begin by signing into GiftWorks. If you've installed the GiftWorks Events add-in, you'll have an additional option on your toolbar called Events. If you click on that, it'll take you to either Manage Events, or it would take you to the Show Events Overview, depending on how you answered this question there. Skip this screen and go to Manage Events. In our case, it goes directly to Manage Events. Gives you an overview of all the events you have set up. Here's our 2009 Winter Banquet that we had set up. We set this up in the first video in this video series, and we actually went in and put a fair amount of information about, we set up some activities, did some reservations, kind of went through the whole process very quickly. So I sort of scaled this event back where I just set up what I call sort of the shell or the structure of this event. So we'll right click and we'll edit this event to show you what we have set up so far. We have the name for it. We didn't really put a description in. We show the location. Remember that we have the events running on the 28th from 6 to 10 in the evening. We have an RSVP date. We have the maximum capacity of 240, minimum capacity of 200. Those are just informational fields. The minimum capacity would really refer to like how many people we really need to have to make this event worthwhile to hold. I'm going to change the status at this point to, we have these statuses that we've set up for our own, whatever makes sense to our organization. Well, when you first open up the event, you probably just have an open status, the way with the statuses we have set up here. In this case, say the event's kind of in process now. We're going to begin to start to set up activities and do some activity with this event. We have the income goal of $15,000. We hope that we can get 200 people to attend. That's actually our goal because that's our minimum capacity. And also, we had associated this event with a campaign, the 2009 Winter Banquet, which it gives us some flexibility. If we can track our event money will be associated with that campaign, and if we also have donations that come in against that campaign, there's a report we can do some analysis. So we'll save that, and I can either click on this and click View or double click on it to bring it up and show that really at this point there's really not much more information about the end. We sort of have just the structure in place. So if you look at the summary information, there's not a lot of dollar information down here, just the stuff that we set up as far as our goals. There's a graph here which compares income to this event to others, but there's not a lot of information here because this event doesn't have much set up yet. So one of the first things you'd want to do is start to think about or design the activities for your event. Well, what is an activity? Well, an activity is sort of a generic name that we use to define anything, any type of component. Some people might refer to them as packages or ticketable items that you would want to track within your event. It's something that you want to track maybe how many there's available, or at least certainly you would track. It's something that people can order as part of your event. So it might be an activity that is involved with somebody attending your event, or it could just be an activity involved with somebody sponsoring an event. There's basically activities, and then there's sponsorships or special type of activities. Then additional to all the other things that happen with other activities, those dollars are broken out separately. Let's begin. I'll go to the Activities tab, and if you don't have any activities defined, you can click Add an Activity here. And for a banquet, typically you would have meal tickets. So we'll start out with designing. I'm going to show you one of two different ways you can set up your meal tickets, just to show you some options, because there's a lot of flexibility with how you set these up. You can put a description in if you want. The price is basically there's two things that are important, I think, to note about price. One is whatever price you set up here, when you order that event, that'll be the default price that would come up for what you're charging the person for that. You can override that when they order it. It can be a lesser or a greater amount. But also, if you put an amount in here, and if you put a number available here, it uses those two multiplied together to determine the potential income for this activity, which is used in some reporting and also on some of the screens within events. So in this case, and if you If you don't put a number available, and it means it's unlimited, and I'm going to show you an example of that. In this case, we know we have 30 tables at our banquet. Yes, 30 tables with 8 per table, so that's 240 total tickets. It's not a sponsorship activity. We'll cover that later. Restrict quantity I'm going to cover after I add reservation fields. I think it'll be easier to explain. Let me add a reservation field. A reservation field is basically our way of giving you the ability to set up custom fields that when they reserve this activity, that they can either enter information or choose from a list of certain information you want to track about this activity that's specific to this activity. So for instance, for the meal choice, I might want to create a list drop down. These are the same choices we have with our custom fields within GiftWorks. I might want to create a list drop down called meal choice. And I'm going to add some values. I'm going to add chicken, beef. So when they order this, they'll be able to choose that. I also might want to have them the ability, maybe we assign them a ticket number. Maybe we track ticket numbers. So I'm going to create a text box and say they can enter their ticket number. There's no default value there. We also, since we know we have 30 tables here, but these are just listing the 240 tickets total, we might want to know what table they're at. So we might want to create a list drop down of the table choices. So they would this is be the table, and I'm not going to enter all of these, but we could have a choice for each table. Table 1, table 2, table 3. Now, restrict quantity. Let's go back here. So these are this is the information that they could specify when they order this activity. Now, restrict quantity. What does that mean? Well, we don't want it to. Some people might understand it to be more than what it truly is. It simply means this: when you reserve this activity, the quantity is set to 1, and you can't change that. Doesn't mean that the person can't order that activity more than once when they reserve it, but each time they reserve it, they can order one at a time. And it might be because of the reservation field information you're capturing really doesn't make sense. So in this case, for instance, if we're capturing the ticket number and we allowed somebody to order 3, we don't really have a place to put in 3 ticket numbers, so that really wouldn't work. So in this case, we're going to restrict the quantity. So if they want to order 3 tickets, they'd have to order the activity 3 times, and each of those they would have to specify the ticket number and this other information. So restrict quantity is often necessary based on the type of reservation information. So that's one way to set up our meal tickets. We could also set up an activity where by table. So we could actually specify meal ticket table 1, and we could do we could set up one of these for each of our 30 tables. And again the price is the same, but we only have 8. We have 8 tickets available for this table. And I'm not going to set up the rest of this information now, but we could set up the same reservation field information if we want. We wouldn't have table number, but we could give them the meal choice and so forth. Not going to take the time to do that now, but it gives you an idea that as I set those up, if I set it up this way, then every time I order the meal ticket, I would specify the choice, the ticket number, and the table, and I would have to use some reporting and stuff to be able to know what table, who's assigned to what table, and nothing would necessarily stop me from putting more than 8 people at a particular table. This method would allow me to restrict me to 8 people per table, but there would be some limitations or maybe some things. As it summarizes the meal choice, it would summarize them per table, rather than you would have to do some adding of all the, like if you want to know how many people order chicken, you might have to do that across all the tables, and we can show that as we continue with the reservation process. But that's an idea of some of the things you want to consider. We also want to add an activity, a sponsorship activity, and we're going to call this table sponsorship. And this is just basically to help defer the costs. And so somebody can sponsor a table for $200. We have 30 tables, there's 30 of those available. It's a sponsorship. And maybe we could add that there's they get to put a nameplate. So we'll put a text box in. What do they want to have on their nameplate at the table? It says maybe the name of their organization or whatever. And again, we might want to restrict the quantity there, since you might want to be able to order one at a time, since maybe you want a different nameplate for each table. By making it a sponsorship activity, what does that do? Well, these are just special activities where, you know, this person is not necessarily going to attend the event, but that's not really the key. The key is that the primary difference is, in addition to this activity being tracked with other activities, they can also be reported on and used in smart lists and mailings and so forth separately, so you can see those dollars separately. And also event sponsors can be identified for future recognition or follow-up. The final activity I want to add is, so you don't have to have an amount. You can put in an activity name of, let's say we're gonna ask, they want, maybe we'll give brochures out that they can hand out to their friends. There's no real charge to them. There's many available. We just want to know how many people ordered. So there's really no cost. There's no limit to how many we produce. We just don't want to produce more than we have to. But we want to be able to know how many brochures they want. They can order these. So then when they come to the event, then we'll have those many to hand out, and they can give them to their friends to tell them about our organization. So that gives you an idea of the types of activities that you can set up. We'll go into more details in future videos of how you can reserve these activities and show how this would impact our reservations. Thanks for watching.